Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 343. I was white here and played e4, and my opponent played e5. I played the normal move here, and my opponent plays d6, the Philidor defense. So the main moves here are knight to c6, defending the pawn, or knight to f6, counterattacking my pawn, but d6, defending a pawn with a pawn, and then you can play d4, just going after the center immediately. And now the most popular move here is e takes d4. This is called surrendering the center, but it's not so bad. It's a playable position for black, somewhat cramped. White's going to have a space advantage. He can also try defending the pawn with these knight moves, and but this move here is definitely a second-rate move. And Morphy proved this a long time ago in the famous game Morphy versus the Count Isoard and the Duke of Brunswick. Morphy against the Count and the Duke, sometimes called the Opera House game because it was played at the Opera House in Paris. And anyway, you can find that game on YouTube. It's been annotated a number of times. Just look for Morphy and Opera game and Morphy versus the Count, that kind of stuff. You will find it. And interesting game. Everybody should check it out at some time. So we follow that game for a while. So the reason I'll explain why this pin is a bad idea is because it doesn't really work. I mean, it's kind of an indirect defense of the e-pawn because the knight is pinned, so it can't take immediately. But after the trade, if black takes back, then you take the queen with check. He has to take back, and now the knight is unpinned, so you can take the pawn. I guess I'll go ahead and put that on the board. New variation. You take here, he takes, and all of a sudden there's no pin on the knight, so this pawn is just loose, and you're just winning a whole pawn here. So it's bad to take, and if he's not going to take the pawn, what can he do? He has to take the knight pretty much. Knight d7 it says is a try here, so he could also try at this point developing a knight, but you can grab a pawn by taking on d6 then. So the way this is usually played is bishop takes, queen takes, and then getting the pawn back. And this is how the game Morphy versus the Duke and the Count went. And Morphy played the move bishop to c4 here, just developing another piece. And the whole game is just a great example of logical developing moves, developing with threats, and great example of how to play. So at this point, the Count and the Duke played the move knight f6, blocking the queen, and Morphy played queen to b3. So my opponent here varied, and actually if you look at the chess evaluation, it looks like he's trying to rehabilitate this opening line by playing the best moves. So queen f6 is a better defense than what the Count and the Duke played. And I don't want to trade queens. I've got my queen out, I might as well put it to some use. And it looks like going over to b3 is still the right idea. So you've got a battery going against f7. You're not threatening to take immediately because it's defended, but you're also putting some pressure on the b-pawn. And we're out of the opening book at this point, so we can just look at the notation tab. Now it looks like knight d7. If the black player wants to continue to put up the most stubborn defense, knight d7 looks interesting. Just sacrificing that pawn, and maybe it's not, let's check, maybe it's not safe to take the pawn. This is useful to know. Queen takes b7 is playable, just not considered the best move. So after queen takes b7, you're a pawn up, but the black gets some tempos. Rook b8, and now queen a6. I guess it's not safe to take a second pawn there. And, well, you've grabbed a pawn, but black got some counterplay. So after knight d7, the best move for white is knight to d2, continuing to develop. And you keep your advantage here. So it's just a good position for white with your lead in development and with your pressure on the black position. So anyway, he didn't play the best move after queen b3. He played b6, simply defending the pawn. And now knight c3, just continuing to develop. And white is going to castle at some point, but there's no hurry to castle. He's not under any threat, and he's going to castle at a moment when it's most effective. If if you'll see in the actual Morphy game, white ends up castling queenside at a time when the rook comes onto the open file with great effect. So very nice example of using castling for a dual purpose. Okay, so my opponent played bishop to c5 here, trying to counterattack. And I just castled. It looks like bishop e3 immediately is a good move as well, but castling is solid. Knight e7. And now I play bishop e3, the second choice here. It looks like knight b5 already is a winning advantage. So let's look at knight b5. Knight b5 comes with the threat of the fork here, and the bishop drops back to d6 to defend it. Takes. Yeah, I guess the idea is you're just messing up the pawn structure, and then f4, opening up some more lines. You've got the bishop pair. You've won the other bishop, so you have the total bishop pair. You have two bishops against two knights, and you're going to create some open lines here, and looks like the attack will come through pretty strong. But the way I played it here, the second choice, the engine, this is still a good move. He can't really take this bishop because I'll take back with a pawn, and then the rook on the open file combined with the bishop and queen battery will be too much, and I'll be winning on f7. So black should probably just castle here, but he tried knight b to c6. Maybe he's got some idea. Cancel that. Knight b to c6. Okay, well, he's developing a piece. That makes sense. And maybe he has some idea of coming to this square, hitting my two pieces. So I do have to be respectful. And I played bishop takes c5 here. Okay, that's one of the choices. I was wondering if maybe I was a little bit too careless. Looks like this keeps the advantage. Because does he have time? He doesn't really have time to play this knight maneuver, does he? Say if he tried knight a5. Oh, he did try this in the game. But yeah, I can escape with queen a4 check. So what's his best reply at this point? His best chance is just to take the bishop back. Yeah, so the way he played it attacking my queen, he's down a piece, and he needs to get the piece back, and he was hoping to throw in this intermediate move. But my queen can escape with check. Again, not the top choice of the engine, but still a good move. Cancel that. Queen to a4 check. Yeah, it's not so good on b5 because the pawn move c6 would kick the queen, so queen a4 check is definitely the better move. And then he played c6. Cancel that. What did he play? Oh, he played knight e to c6. Okay, the engine is suggesting c6. He played knight knight e to c6. Okay. And what did I play here? I played bishop e3. Yeah, just dropping the bishop back. I'm a piece up. I don't need to play anything great to win from this point. I just have to be careful I don't lose a piece to a fork or a queen trap or something like that. He took the bishop, which this is just a trade. Now I stay a piece up. Then he castled, trying to get out of trouble. So knight d5, I've got my pieces out. I'm just going to move them forward and start making threats here and hitting his loose knight as well. Probably could have also developed a rook at that point. Yeah, rook fd1, another good move. You know, sometimes it's a general rule you want to get all your pieces into the attack, but knight d5 is just a good move here. So it comes with a lot of threats. He played queen to d6. Yeah, it's hitting the queen at the same time. He played queen to d6, one of the few moves here. Cancel that. Queen to d6. And yeah, and that the engine found this too. There's a neat tactic in this position. Something to always keep in mind. There's a check here from the knight, hitting the king and hitting this knight. So the knight is the only piece that's defending the square. Well, the knight and the queen. But if I take the knight, queen takes, then this check would fork the king and the queen. So always got to keep your eye out for these kind of tactics. So I can just grab the knight here, and he took back, and then I got this check to win my queen back. So I gained another piece here. King h8 is the only move, and he played one more move and then resigned. He's two pieces down, and there's not a whole lot going on in this position that would give him any hope of counterplay. My king is perfectly safe over here, and I just have to trade off the rooks and use my extra pieces to win all his pawns. Okay, so that's how the game ended. Kind of a short game, but interesting for the tactics and for the historical reference to the famous Morphy game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.